Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitangtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangolang Hayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamahang Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Hinindantam Pulakot Karena Vikasam Nipa Prasunatchavim Prodrikritva Bhujadvayam Hari Hari Etuchaiva Dantam Muhu Nityantam Drutam Asru Nirjara Chaye Sinchantam Urvitalam Gayantam Neja Parasadaya Parivritam Shri Gaura Chandram Nama Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemabhadivyachchavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Adananas Tridam Janchaya Idam Jache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padamboja Dulisham Janma Janmani. So Srila Guru Maharaj begins this portion of his talk quoting the Brahma Stuti, means the prayers of Brahma, which are in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The 13th chapter is aptly titled The Brahma Vimohan Leela. So, what it means the pastime of the bewilderment of Brahma. Right? So it's Brahma, right? We say, the head of the Sampradaya, becoming bewildered, overcome by illusion, but it is Leela. It is Krishna's pastimes. So, although this comes so much later, it's the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, it was indicated in the very first verse of the Bhagavatam, right, that you could expect this. Right, where it says, Janmadyasya yaton bayad itaratas cha arteshu abhigyasvarat tene brahma hridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsuraya, saying even the gods will be bewildered in trying to properly estimate Krishna or understand Krishna, to know Krishna, perceive Krishna, observe Krishna, whatever you want to say. So it's saying even the gods will be bewildered about this. It's told right in the beginning. So then we can understand we are in good company, of those who are trying to understand Krishna, but are the limitations of mundane sense perception, right? Prevent one from properly understanding or estimating Krishna. Like we've heard the poet William Blake say, when the doors of perception are cleansed, we will see everything as it is, infinite. Right? Another way of putting that is when the doors of perception, that means the senses, the eyes, ear, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, all of these sensual experience, and including the mind. In Guru Maharaj's terminology, what needs to be cleansed? Acquired prejudice, acquired tendency. When we're cleansed of those things, like in the first verse of the Shikshashanam, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhavam, cleansing the Darpana, the Cheta, the mirror, you can say the mirror of the mind or the mirror of consciousness. When it's cleansed of acquired prejudice and acquired tendency, he says, you'll see everything as it is infinite. Another way of putting it is saying, then you can have a glimpse of the infinite. Right? Who's described in the Bhagavatam, Vedanti, or the truth. Right? Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam madvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Described in three phases. Brahma, greater than the greatest, all-accommodating Brahma. The extremes of the infinite, right? One extreme, greater than the greatest, all-accommodating. The other extreme, Paramatma, all-permeating, within everything. One, everything is within that. Another one, it is within everything. These are the parameters of the extremes of the infinite. But then Srila Guru Maharaj poses the question, what should be the central conception of the infinite? Right? If those are the extremes, all accommodating, greater than the greatest, all permeating, smaller than the smallest, Brahma, Paramatma, then what will be the central conception of the infinite? Or the golden mean of the infinite? As one is all accommodating, one all permeating, the central conception, all attractive. And as I mentioned the other day, if you want to understand the relative attractiveness of Krishna compared to Paramatma, because if we look at a poster or a picture, we'll go like, oh, Paramatma looks like Krishna with 4 arms. Right? Or, it looks like Krishna but with 4 arms. More or less like that. Oh, absent the flute, a few, some of his paraphernalia. Right? But in one place, Srila Prabhupada said, what is it? Like, there's the sun, and we say, the sunlight is in this room. The sunlight in the room, that's the localized aspect of the sun. So you know what sunlight is like in your room? And then we have some idea of what the sun is, the magnitude of light, heat, intensity there is in the sun, which is 150 million kilometers away. But what's the localized aspect? The sunlight in your room. What's the localized aspect of Krishna? The Lord in the heart, the light in your room, the Lord in your heart. He's not marginally more attractive. There's an infinite magnitude of attractiveness. Even other expansions of Krishna want to have a glimpse of Krishna. Right? As we find out in the Bhagavatam. Vishnu, Mahavishnu, you can say, or other. On some ploy, wants to see Krishna. Someone asked about the saying, sweetness Ajita, sweetness personified Krishna in the Gita talking about opulence. Can there be some comparison to this Rup Damodar talking about the opulence we heard from Hara Panchami when he's talking about the opulence of Vrindavan? And what we have to say there, just, he asked the question and Ajita can handle the answer. And I say this with folded palms about him. The Krishna of the Gita is not sweetness personified. You understand? That is not Vrindavan Krishna. That is Dwaraka Krishna, Krishna of the Gita. when Rupa Goswami, again, we can think these things are just marginal, marginal, or how do you say, what's the word? Anyway, like that. But when Rupa Goswami says, Sarvadbhuta Chamatkara Lila Kalola Varadi Atulya Madhura Prema Priya Mandita Priyan Manasa Karshi Murali Kalakujita Asanan Mordva Asam Mordva Rupa Sri. He's talking about those qualities that distinguish Krishna. Krishna will say, well, it's 60 and then add another 4. That's what I'm saying about it being more. So 4 more, but 60, that's pretty good, right? But really it's not like that. These 4, and one it says Krishna Murali Kalakuja, the sweet sound of his flute. So that's 1, and that he has, he had these extraordinary pastimes, and also it says what it means. It's an allusion to Madhura Rasa, right? So what is being said is that there's no Madhura Rasa in Vishnu. And those pastimes, Lakshmi Narayan. Madhura Rasa, the full-blown sweetness of Krishna and charm, seductive charm, etc., is only expressed in Vrindavan. Not in Ayodhya or Dwarka. Fully, in its full sweetness of expression in Krishna Vrindavan. So Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that is not Krishna of Vrindavan. We see Radharani and the Braja Gopis, as we just heard in the Rath Yatra, when they go to Kurukshetra, that's Dwaraka Krishna. And they cannot conceal their disappointment. So, and remember, they're the leader, whatever we're aspiring for a connection with, these are the leaders of this type of thought, feeling, etc. Right? It's not just there are some devotees we hear about. No, they are the gurus of this line, the leaders. They have the particular type of vision that we aspire to through serving our Guru Varga. Right? And the audacity of these, teenage girls to we know in one place they're dismissing Vishnu. That just seems inconceivable if you think, wait, 60, what is it about the 4 that make Vishnu, we pass on Vishnu? Because of these 4 other qualities Krishna has? Right. So, and what to speak of that Vishnu, here, Dwaraka Krishna is not good enough for them. Right? And you could make the case like 62, or not. So those qualities that are specific to Vrindavan Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, who's at the right hand of Radharani, they have infinite magnitude to them. It's not just 2 more or 4 more. Right? So, those Braja Gopis, they will not be satisfied with anything less but Krishna Vrindavan, complete with flute, Gopavesh, Venukar, Navakishore, Natabar, Naralilahoy, Anurup. Right? Krishna Raja Teka Kela Sarvatam, Naralila, etc. So, Brahma could be forgiven for misreading Krishna Lila, misunderstanding who is Krishna. But that is Krishna's fun, his play. Right? So, what I mean to say is the central conception of the infinite is the human-like. And as one is all accommodating, one's all permeating. What is its unique aspect? All attractive. That's when we first heard that from Prabhupada about Krishna. I don't remember hearing the phrase all attractive previously. We heard that Krishna is all attractive. And and when we say all attractive, we just say, he's attractive. And if you think it's just like, oh, these teenage girls from Vrindavan, they're mad after Krishna. And no, like that Vishnu, he's attracted. Then what is, and then we just mentioned Dwaraka Krishna, he's attracted to Vrindavan Krishna. That's in the poetry of Rupa Goswami. See how he, and with beautiful poetry, he's telling us something unique that is special. So he's saying, and it's variously described, whether Krishna sees his reflection in a mirror or in a jeweled column, but he sees that and he's saying, he's stunned and thinks, who is this who's so beautiful and charming and attractive? He said, I feel the feelings of Sri Radhika awakening in me. He said, who is this? It's Krishna. That's the effect that Vrindavan Krishna has upon Dwaraka Krishna. So, to understand Krishna, not so easy. I mean, and at the same time easy, if you get connection with the devotee of Krishna. Otherwise not. Right? So, when Guru Maharaj is making, he's got the hidden treasure of the sweet absolute, the 4 nutshell slokas, he mentions that it was in his Prapana Jivanamritam that he first gave a particular interpretation of this verse, ahang sarva, just Bhagavata is saying, janmadhyasya, everything's coming from him. But there, Vishwanath says, and more specifically, everything's springing out of Madhura Rasa. All other rasas are clients. All other rasas are satellites of Madhura Rasa to exalt. There couldn't just be one. Like there's not just sweet. We especially appreciate sweet after bitter, salty, pungent, sour. Then our appreciation for sweet is enhanced by these other things. So in a similar way, all the other rasas, we're told, they're clients, they're satellites of Madhura Rasa. Everything comes from Madhura Rasa, is springing out from that. But in the Gita, Krishna is saying, ahang sarvasya prabhavo, mattak sarvam pravartate. Saying everything comes from me. So Guru Maharaj says, so I gave this interpretation and put in the Prapana Jivanamrita that yes, everything comes from me, and including how to serve me or how to worship me. That also comes from me. In one way, when I descend as Mahaprabhu, Swabhaktebyam Sudham Nijabhajanam Mudram Upadishan, Rupa Goswami descends with his devotees and he's showing this. But is he showing generic devotion or something more specific than that? We know Radha Bhava Duti Subalita. He's enveloped in the heart of Radharani, and the radiance of the heart is the halo, converting Shama Sundar Krishna into Gauranga Sundar Mahaprabhu. So the devotion he's showing is not generic devotion, but it's her type of devotion. So when he says, Ahang Sarvasya Prabhavo, Guru Maharaj said, I gave the interpretation. He's taken that Bhagavatam sloka toward Radha Dasyam, saying that when you really are captured by Krishna conception, that if you really are captured by Krishna conception, then you will move in the direction of his potency. Hladini Shakti. Because as Jiva Goswami says, irresistibly being drawn to the central conception of the infinite. And you say Sarva, on account of these qualities he has that are unique to him. Bhajaniya Sarva Sadguna Vishishta. The natural reaction of the heart and the presence of Krishna is to offer yourself in service. That is the response. Right? Not to want to possess Krishna or observe Krishna or any such things, but to offer oneself in service. Just as we're told, that Brahma who's bewildered and makes these prayers. What did he say in the beginning? Before this one, Nomijite Abra Vapuse Taridambaraya. It's very sweet. He's saying, Abra Vapu means like the rain cloud, which we see here. You see them here in the afternoon. These ones that have that Shamasun, Ganasham complexion. So Brahma says to Krishna, almost, excusing him, and somebody saying, "You're very difficult to see." Remember, he's talking to him as a 5-year-old boy. Right? But this will make the foundation for things that will come later. So these pastimes are necessarily, although they're Leela, and have, in one sense, they don't need any rhyme or reason. There's some mystical sequence there laying a foundation for later what will be the full expression of the sweetness of Krishna and his pastimes with Srimati Radharani and Braja Gopis. But Brahma says, Abra Bapu, because you look like the dark cloud, it's hard to see you. In other words, he's saying, you're playing as a child. I didn't get it. I have some familiarity with Vishnu and Yagyavai Vishnu, that we do yagya with mantra and fire sacrifice and all these things. And then at the end of that, there's some prasadam. And then we very respectfully, we honor that prasadam. Said, but that Vishnu as Krishna would be having a picnic on the bank of the Jamuna. That I couldn't conceive, right? Because I know it normally comes this way, with this sort of majestic grandeur and Vedic. The gravity of mantram and all these things. That the person for whom for whom all the sacrifice is meant, like plays barefoot, he has a bamboo flute stuffed in the side of it, and he's sitting there with food in his hand, eating out of his palm, laughing with his friends, and they're playing and joking. You're difficult to see. That's what he's saying. Then what? Abravapu say Taridambaraya. But if you're Taridambar, your lightning-like dress means Hladini Shakti. This is Guru Maharaj's interpretation again. So he's saying, Krishna wears the yellow dhoti, right? Sometimes we hear Radharani wears blue for Krishna. Krishna wears yellow for Radharani. But that yellow dress, he's saying taridam, but lightning-like dress you have. What does lightning do? It gives illumination. So although you're difficult to see, when you're dressed in your potency, we can see you. You are revealed. So it's a very beautiful way Guru Maharaj is extracted there from saying, she reveals you. Ahang sarva, it comes from me, but she is my better half. I come as Mahaprabhu to sing her glories in the world. Right? And reveal her type of devotion. So, and Brahma, so saying that, Taridambara, Gunjavatangsha Paripicha, he said, you have the peacock feather. You know, normally we would think the majestic aspect of divinity, you would expect, you know, like jewels, crowns, and you're wearing a peacock feather, the bamboo flute, and then a stick for herding cows. If you see, sometimes even hear anything, it's just around this long. They just tap them. It's not like like this. It's like a twig from a tree, pretty much, like a small branch of a tree. They just tap this way, and so he has that on one side, the flute on the other side, sitting there laughing and eating out of his hand. Right? And his steps are very beautiful. Sometimes Krishna is described as like, the way he walks is like a baby elephant. So he's saying, so you walk like that, and your feet are very soft, and the ground, and then this, forgive me for not understanding who you are. And there's some part like this in Garga Sangita. We're talking to Srila Gurudev on his veranda in Kolkata, and after all of this, see, and it can stream in infinite ways. So Kaviraj Goswami has a dialogue in Charitamritam, Narayanastam Nahi Sarvadehinam, where Brahma is saying, this little boy, imagine, Brahma, he's like 150 trillion years old. And talking to Krishna, who's 5, and saying, are you not my father? You know, and Krishna, what are you saying? I'm 5 years old. How could I be your father? You're Brahma. I mean, Krishna's teasing him in different ways. There they have a dialogue, but in other places, Krishna doesn't say anything. So Brahma makes all of these wonderful prayers that form, if you learn these prayers, you can preach forever. Everything's here within the prayers of Brahma. And look, I only said half a one so far. Not even the one I meant to talk about. Right? But, so, what was I going to say? That, what did I say before that? Oh, so, Brahma makes all these wonderful prayers. They're quoted by Mahaprabhu, all the great devotees. You know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, Gurudev. Everyone knows as many as possible as the prayers of Brahma. But at the end, I said to Gurudev, so then what did Krishna say? Because Brahma is saying all these things, including Tadburi Bhagyam Evaha Janma Kimapyatavyam, Amma Yad Gokulepi Karamangri Brajobhishekam. Similar to Uddhava, but a little more gentle, saying, my aspiration is to be a creeper on the grass, and you know, it's similar. That could be. Uddhava is a little more direct and precise, you could say. But after all this, so I said to Gurudev, what did Krishna say? He said, Krishna went, like, you can go. Because Brahma starts backing down at the end saying like, maybe I should just go back to Brahma Loka and run the universe. I said, yeah. Then he could understand the qualifications of those who are within the pastimes of Krishna. Those cowherd boys on the banks of the Jamuna and the picnic, and itam brahma sukhana bhutya dasam gatanam paradevatenam mayasritanam sakyam vijahu krita punya punya. Prabhupada liked this verse very much, where it's being said in the mind, what did they do that they get to play with him and have lunch with him like this? So, that verse, which so Brahma, realizing his foolishness in trying to estimate who is Krishna by dint of intellectual or mental prowess. That's what I mean to say. Right? Here, he will reveal the only way that you can properly conceive Krishna. Jnane prayasamurapasana eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam stane stita srutigatam tanuban manovir ye prayaso jita jito piyasi taistrilokyam. And this is Guru Maharaj's extraction from here. He says, learn to be humble, modest, and that is the path to come in connection with the superior. In other words, arrogant self-assertion is repulsive, right? You could take it as positive and negative. If Krishna is the supreme positive, then he's attracted to negativity, which Guru Maharaj equates to humility and submissiveness. That he's attracted to. And arrogant self-assertion is repulsive. So he said, that is the path to come in connection with the superior. Then Guru Maharaj, he does not mince words. Qualify yourself with the quality, that of a slave. Right? And this is where everybody starts to get nervous. Guru Maharaj is not afraid to use that word. And I understand. In modern context, it's like, it cannot be said. But you have to understand what is being discussed here. So I thought about this recently because of our Italian friends and saying ciao. They say ciao for hello, goodbye, and other things. So if you look that up, as I did, it'll say, and forgive me if I say it wrong, but it's like schiavo or schiavo. It comes from that. And what that means is what they used to say was, I'm your slave. And the other person said, and I'm your slave. And then, proceed. So what do they mean by saying that? It means a particular level of submission or willingness to submit yourself to another, right? That's the ultimate. If it's anything short of slave or slavery, then there's something left to be desired. So he says, then he explains, because just for modern people, I mentioned that slave, think of that as inviting submissive spirit. Okay? As much as we are submissive, as much as we are surrendered, we will be taken with much earnestness, much adoration. We will be accepted with adoration. So go to acquire the limit of slave quality, and you will be adored as much in the higher quarter. From the highest quarter, the higher region that we are meant for. Qualify yourself in that way. the highest quarter you may earn by your submission. If you really want a sphere which is higher and higher than you, the only way, try to acquire a submissive nature, the humility necessary to come to that higher plane. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Ye yatam mam prapadyante tangstateva bhajamyaham. As one surrenders to me, I reciprocate that. Well, then let's think about this, just for the sake of consideration. So then that would mean if you offer yourself in abject slavery to Krishna, that he becomes the abject slave of the devotee. If he's saying, I reciprocate the way you offer yourself in submission to me, that I reciprocate that with you. And from one point of view, that's unthinkable. From another point of view, I could say it's inequitable, meaning it's not an equal trade. Because even if you offer your whole self completely, we're finite, we're tiny finite souls. And then you get the infinite for offering something finite? That's not fair. Right? But devotion is not fair. And it's in our favor. Right? We're offering, a finite amount, at the maximum is still a finite amount. And then we get the infinite in response to that. So Rupa Goswami is saying, this is what is inconceivable about Krishna Bhakti. Kleshagni subhada moksha lagutakrit sandrananda visheshatma Shri Krishna karshini chasa. We said a short while ago that the central conception of the infinite is all attractive Krishna. Everyone being drawn toward his beauty, charm, sweetness, love and affection of infinite magnitude. That he's Akila Rasamrita, he can reciprocate every atom of every heart's hankering simultaneously and in a variegated way. The absolute cannot be anything less than that. And through his expansions and the Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu, innumerable universes come out of his pores. He enters as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Kiradakshai Vishnu, Brahma, Gunavatar, all of this. Right? Innumerable mundane, innumerable Vaikuntha planets. Right? Ayodhya, Dwaraka, Mathura, Vrindavan, all of these things. That Krishna, the central conception of the infinite, reality of the beautiful, he's irresistibly drawn in attraction to Krishna Bhakti. Krishna Bhakti. In the heart of a finite, that's irresistible to him. Right? That's what Srila Rupa Goswami is telling us in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That all attractive Krishna is irresistibly drawn in attraction to this. I think, what a wonderful thing is love or divine love. Then Guru Maharaj says, he says, admit that you are gross. You are of lower stuff. Like, I sometimes mention that Auden, the English poet, he has a line in one of his poems saying, we are composed of eros and dust. That's what we are, eros and dust. And I thought, oh, he's on to something here. if you really want the higher association, you will have to admit this reality of your existence. Do that and qualify yourself for the higher plane of life. This is not cowardice. Real intelligence is here. This is realistic thought. This is not imagination. And then he says, it's the highest realization of the human brain, people fighting with each other, and no further higher thing? What is this? Atheism, a hated thing. And then he laughs and he says, the critics, they say Gaudiya Math encourages slave mentality. Guru Maharaj says, a fool's remark. You are enslaved to this present half-knowledge civilization. You are all slaves of matter. And like Yamaraj, the god of death, Newton's law is there. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You are exploiting and you will be exploited. Mind it. Don't exploit. Take just the opposite. Try to become a member in the assembly of the highest plane. And how is it possible? Come to realistic thinking, because death will remove us surely from this plane, however pleasant, even in imagination, it may be. This dreaming land won't stand. So, this point of saying, Gaudiya Math is preaching a slave mentality. Right? So Guru Maharaj, he gave an example, said when Mahatma Gandhi, at one point, he sent out a memo or whatever, saying that he needed an assistant. So you can say, executive assistant, or you could say servant, servitor, however you want to describe that. But Guru Maharaj mentioned the highest men in India volunteered for this position. Right? And it's like a non-paying position. Right? Great scientists, thinkers, writers, they all were volunteering for that position. Why? Because they thought, he's, Mahatma, he's so great, he's such an extraordinary personality. If I can have even the menial service connection with him, I'll be unlimitedly benefited. That was their thinking. So Guru Maharaj is pointing out, you can think like that about someone in this world. Right? Then what would be, what sort of conception would you have with the supreme entity? Right? And the opportunity you might have for an exchange there, or some level of participation. Right? So is that a degraded thing? The highest men in society were volunteering for this so-called menial position to get connection with Mahatma Gandhi. But to be a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's a degraded position? Or is that, that's his response to this allegation. Then Guru Maharaj, he is speaking to some devotees who are visiting, and he is such a gentleman that he wants to know if they're experiencing any kind of inconvenience. And they're saying really no, but Guru Maharaj said, well, passing your days in a foreign land, there may be so many difficulties. It says, many inconveniences may come, but of course we are to endure, to forbear. Whenever we are out of home, some sort of discomfort we must have to undergo. But we may not care for that. And now he's talking about because we're pursuing Krishna consciousness. He says, this is not a pleasure trip, is it not? Or trial, pain should be. Ordinary little inconveniences should be our association on the path of spiritual realization. Right? So we mentioned Brahma coming out of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the lotus flower, atop that Brahma appears. He is uncertain about his identity and purpose, not unlike everyone at some point in their life. Right? And we're told, what is he here? Ta, pa. He said, ta, pa, ta, pa. Right? And from that, he gets the inspiration to perform austerities. So tapasya, we're told, in one place Srila Prabhupada describes it as tapasya as voluntarily inconveniencing oneself for the sake of spiritual realization. The Olympics just passed. 4 year, a lifetime of training, but let's just take the last 4 years of their lives, the Olympians. Right? They're pursuing this ideal. Right? The pursuit of that ideal requires dedication, discipline, sacrifice. It dictates what time they get up in the morning. Let's say they get up around 4. I like that. So they get up at 4. Regardless of what the weather conditions are, how they feel personally, what's going on in their lives, some good news came, some bad news came, whatever their economic, they're up at 4. Right? And begin another day of discipline, self-sacrifice, right, in pursuit of this goal. It not only dictates what time they get up in the morning, but also their diet. The pursuit of this goal dictates what they can eat and what they can't eat. Right? It also dictates who they can associate with and who they should not associate with. And what time they should go to bed, what time they should wake up. So in other words, their whole life is structured around the pursuit of this goal. And we could add to that there's only 3 metals, right? Gold, silver, bronze. Right? It's kind of like uttam, madhyam, kanishta. There's 3, and so there may be thousands pursuing that. And then 3 are going to achieve something noteworthy. Right? For all the thousands who do not meddle, they don't think that what they did in the last 4 years of their lives leading up to that point was a waste of time, energy, or any such thing. They will say things like, I consider it an honor just to participate, to be a part of this. Right? So I may have taken the conceit a little too far, but you see the parallel. In the pursuit of Krishna consciousness, it dictates the amount, self-sacrifice, tapasya, austerity, inconveniencing oneself voluntarily for the sake of spiritual realization. They're inconveniencing themselves voluntarily in the pursuit of that, of Olympic perfection. Right? But it's similar. And I should add to that, it's not something they do alone, because it's very difficult to do that by yourself every day. So they usually have a group, an association in which they're doing. And the association, someone's feeling a little stronger than someone else, they help each other by that association to remain dedicated, self-sacrificing, disciplined. And they have a coach. And the coach is giving them what? Affectionate guidance. So, what does Guru Maharaj say? This is not a pleasure trip, is it not? But to that I would say, just as a joke, it is the ultimate pleasure trip. Right? We are the ultimate pleasure seekers. Where on the one hand, it's thought that people who are serious about spiritual path, that their lives are sensory deprivation, and they're just denying so many, and they just live this pathetic, sorrowful life of where there's no joy. Right? Or at least that's the stereotype. But what is, as Guru Maharaj said, what is not apparently a pleasure trip ultimately ends up in connection with whom? As we say, Reality the Beautiful, Prabhupada had a pamphlet once called Krishna, the Reservoir of Pleasure. Right? Akila Rasamrita Murti, Rasaraj Krishna. Right? Amnaya Prahat Tattvam, revealed truth. Harim Iha Paramam, Krishna is the Supreme Reality. Sarva Shaktim, and he has so many potencies or Shaktis. And what? Rasavdim, and he's an ocean of rasa. So this, we could say that those who are pursuing Krishna consciousness are the ultimate pleasure seekers, because they're not, their heart's demands are not met by the temporal pleasures of this world. Whatever shall they say? Tapo dibyam putraka yena sattvam shudhye jasmad brahmasokyam twanantam. I could say more about that, but you should end with something sweet. Prabhupada loved this verse so much. I'll just risk saying it. It's from the Bhagavatam. You're going to sue me for quoting the Bhagavatam? Nayam deho deha bhajam niloke kashtan kaman arhate vidbujam ye. It's Rishabdev talking to his sons, and he says, my dear sons, do not try for the same pleasures that are available to the stool-eating pigs. That's what he says, vidbujam ye. Tapo dibyam putraka yena. But engage yourself in tapo dibyam, divine, not just sensory deprivation. Tapo dibyam putraka yena shudhye jasmad brahmasokya twanantam. Then spiritual happiness, twana, unlimited spiritual. That's what you'll get by following this path. But I have to say this. So Prabhupada's quoting this verse in Vrindavan at the Krishna Balaram temple. He quoted it frequently. And he said, it says, don't try for the same pleasures as the stool eating thing. So he says, and not only that, he said, but I have seen on the airplane, they are, what is it called? And this English devotee way in the back, here he goes, sausage, And probably goes, just see, immediate response. Like I can't for the life of me think of what it is. And he said, just see, immediate. He thought he was going to be given a gold star for helping, and now he's publicly humiliated. But as your great countryman Dostoevsky said, humiliation is the most intense form of consciousness. When you're humiliated, you're very self-aware. Anyway, he said, oh, I've seen. He said, so not only trying for the same pleasures, he said, but that, and he yelled out Sanskrit, he said, and Prabhupada said classically, like, he said, I do not know if they were taking it home. Like maybe just on the airplane. Like the Indian man sitting next to me and he goes, oh, I see you're taking veg. And I said, yes, I do. And he said, I take veg also. I said, oh, that's very nice. He said, I'm also taking non-veg. So something like that. So Brahma said, not only is it the same pleasures, but they're also consuming that. He said, so, Nayam deho deha bhajam niloke kashtam kaman arhate vidbujamye tapo dibyam putraka yena shatvam. But do tapasya, and from this tapasya, the and by that we mean sacrificing oneself in service, not, how would you say, it's in the Bhagavad Gita and the chapter on the modes of nature, the penance and tamagun, rajagun, sattvagun. All the different things you may do, how they can be, charity and tamagun, rajagun, sattvagun. Right? What is it in tamagun? Giving to the wrong person at the wrong time and the wrong place for the wrong reason. Right? Rajagun, giving something, anticipating the benefit you'll get from having given. Right? Sattvagun, giving because it's what should be done, without any expectation. Still mundane. Right? So when he's saying, tapo dibyam, but divine. Right? As we mentioned, the prayers of Raghunath Das Goswami, praising Sanatana Goswami, Vairagya Yug Bhakti Rasa Prayatnai, Apayayam Mam Anabipsamandam Kripam Buddhi Yat Paraduka Duki, Sanatanastvam Prabhu Mashrayami. Raghunath Das says, I was unwilling to drink the nectar of Vairagya. It's strange to combine these two things together. He's saying like that. And he's saying, and Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, he's so merciful, he made me drink this nectarine substance. So we see unparalleled vairagya in the case of Raghunath Das Goswami, but why? He's feasting internally. He has very little need for anything external. But it is reminiscent of Srila Guru Maharaj quoting Saki Charan Babu, one of the first devotees of Sri Gaudiya Math to come in connection with Srila Saraswati Thakur when he's just beginning. Still in Mayapur, Keshava Maharaj's sister bringing by some luchi and some, lunch. And he's just beginning his preaching. And Tirtha Maharaj, who was, Kunja Babu at the time, and Saki Charan Babu, they're hearing from him. And what are we told? Guru Maharaj said, Saki Charan said, he was pounding his fist on the table, so passionately presenting Mahaprabhu's Krishna conception. He said, we could not understand everything he was saying. He said, but one thing we could understand is he was forcibly trying to push some nectarine substance down our throats, inside us. That much we knew. Right? So, something like that. Shuddhyed Jasmad Brahmasokyam Tvanantam. Hare Krishna. Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namah. Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namah. Yadavaya Madhavaya Kesavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Srivasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Vata Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhata Dasa Raghunath. Echai Gochai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaha Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran. Echai Gochai Jar Muitaro Das. Tansabada Pada Renu Mora Panchagras. Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sane Bas. Janome More Abhilas. Echai Gochai Jabe Braje Koilovas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash. O Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Sri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Kori Ash. Hare Nam Sankirtan Ko He Narottamada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Bol. Bhakti Sudhir Babaji Maharaj Tirubab Mahamahotsavatiti Ki Jai. I should have mentioned something about the glories of Bhakti Sudhir Babaji Maharaj, just in brief, that he is a genuine Ragamarg, Vatsalya Rasa Bhakta, and concealing that position in this world. We're told, that he's sometimes smoking and drinking, offering chai to Gaur and Nitai, and sometimes scattering fish scales outside of his ashram to discourage insincere people. And just to say in brief, because like Saraswati Thakur, he's dismissing as infant class Vaishnavas those who are in Vrindavan chanting 3 lakhs of Krishna Nam a day, and crying tears at taking Krishna Nam. He's dismissing them as being imitationists. And Bhakti Sudhir Babaji Maharaj, he's saying he's genuine. And so we're reminded somewhat of Pundarik Vidyanidhi and the Gadadhar Pandit pastime, but just to say this, and Guru Maharaj saw Bhakti Sudhir Babaji Maharaj in his lifetime, briefly. And Saraswati Thakur's advice was, if by having his darshan and observing him, you think by seeing his behavior, the external aspects, causes you to not to think of him as the Vatsalya Rasa Bhakta that he is, then you should not go there, because that'll be very damaging to you and your spiritual life. But Guru Maharaj had such divine vision of him. And Gurudev mentioned once is he has so much love and affection for Gaur and Nityananda, and they're playing and they climb the tree, and Bhakti Sudhir Babaji Maharaj is climbing the tree, and he is very concerned that Nityananda Prabhu, that Nitai may get hurt. So he's climbing there to protect him, and Bhakti Sudhir Babaji Maharaj, he falls out of the tree and breaks his back in this world. But he is moving in the upper world. And so Guru Maharaj went to see him, have his darshan one time, and he said that he said in front of everyone there, he said, Sri Rupa Manjari is moving with great service necessity in Vrindavan, and you're all sitting here doing nothing. So some, what we might call enigmatic expressions from him, but he is certified by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur as being a genuine Vaishnava of a higher type, and therefore his day is on our calendar, and we worship his lotus feet in the line of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Jai Srila Bhakti Sudhir Babaji Maharaj Tirubab Mahamahotsavatiti Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Acharya Satara Sadashri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadip Dham ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai, Sri Gupta Govardhan ki jai, Ganga Devi, Jamuna Devi, Bhakti Devi, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Om Vishnupad Vishva Varenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda ki jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Vimala Dut Maharaj ki jai, Jai Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi ki jai, Seva Vrinda ki jai, Somaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande.
Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj Dandavats from Madhava Priya Didi, Lila Moy Didi, Crimea, Suchitra Didi.
Lila Moy and
Yes,
Crimea?
yeah.
We were
So-
just talking about her earlier.
Yeah, she's there. Suchitra Didi, Malika Didi, Dandavat pranams from Gaurantaraj, Malika and Janava.
Nice.
Bhakta Bandhu Das from Madh, Philippines, sending my everlasting Dandavat pranam to Maharaj and to all devotees. Stay safe and always missing the association from you. Balaram Prabhu Moscow, Naveen Prabhu Lahta, Kalyani Didi USA, Lila Sundari Didi Australia,
Nice.
Nimai Priya Didi Kiev, Dandavat Maharaj and all devotees, thank you for inspiration and knowledge. Nandarani Didi, Adityanandana Prabhu UK, Krishna Kanti Didi USA, Jaya Govinda Prabhu Ireland, Gaura Prabhu, Arjun Prabhu and Ajita Krishnadas Prabhu. Dandavats to Srila Goswami Maharaj and all residents Gupta Govardhan and all sweet devotees.
Hare Krishna.
That's all, Maharaj.
Jai. Ye Prayaso Jita Jito. Hare Krishna. Hare Jai, Srila Bhakti Sevan Hrishikesh Maharaj. Dandavat. Sri Hari Prabhu in Brazil, Dandavat. Dhananjaya Prabhu and Chaitanya Mohi Didi, they're in Rome, Dandavat. Krishna Mohini Didi, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Elena, Dandavat. That is your mom. Jai. So she has two daughters who are,
Yes.
right? Hare Krishna. And other Dayamai, yes. Hare Krishna. Very fortunate to have two daughters, so you're surrounded by Krishna consciousness. Rupa Vilas Prabhu in the Philippines, Dandavat. Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu and Vrindavan, Dandavat. Lalita Priya Didi, Dandavat. Adidev Prabhu and Chama, Dandavat. Nimai Priya, we just heard, Dandavat. Sandeep and Maheshri Didi, Dandavat. Nityananda Ram in Colombia, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Jai Sripad Bhakti Sai Dandi Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Krishna Govinda Das in Colombia also, Dandavat. Subhashini Didi. Subhashini Kumar. Dandavat. Ananta Shesh Prabhu in Spain. There's Ajita, Dandavat. And Makan Chor. Right? You got to stop stealing that butter, son. No. Now remember when Gurudev was wanting a name from him, this boy from St. Petersburg and everything, and Janardhan Maharaj suggested Makan Chor, and I went, come on, Maharaj, he's not going to name him Makan Chor. And Gurudev, yes, Makan Chor. So, and Prabhupada said that by being Makan Chor, he said, Krishna is showing us the importance of butter. And he is saying it is so important that if we do not have money to purchase, then we can steal it. Jai Devashish Prabhu, the Secretary of London, Sri Chaitanya Saraswati, Dandavat. Gaurachandra Prabhu, Dandavat. Hare Krishna, Suchitra Didi, Dandavat. Rasananda Prabhu in Sochi, Dandavat. Seva Rupa Devi in Mexico, Dandavat.
She did the translation to Spanish.
Oh, very much appreciated. All right, That's because we neglected the Spanish-speaking world for too long. Hare Krishna. Anyone I missed? Oh, Bhagavan Prabhu, Dandavad.
And the last one, Lila Sundar Prabhu.
Leela Sundar Prabhu. Oh, there he is. Dai, Dandavad Prabhu.
Oh,
Hare Krishna.
oh Maharaj Srila.
Chandrakanti Didi, Dandavad. Who is this? Says Anastasia.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, so Anastasia. Dandavad.
Srila Madhusud Maharaj on the third line.
Oh, Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj. He is definitely a traveling bhikkhu. The Parivrajaka Charja. Sorry, Rasananda Prabhu in Ukraine, Dandavad. Endumukhi in China, Dandavad. Nityananda Das is here, Sulakshana is here. That's our three translators then, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And this?
Nandarani Devi.
Nandarani Devi Dasi, Praneshwari Devi, Somyasham Prabhu, in Orsk, Dandavat. He's waving the peacock feathers. Tarun Prabhu in Moscow, Dandavat. Seva Rupa Devi in South Africa, Dandavat.
And Harinamananda Prabhu.
Harinam Ananda. That's a name and a half. Harinam and more, it's Harinam Ananda. That's kind of amazing. Harinam Ananda. What does it say? Kabe habe bolo seidin amar. Amar aparadha. Ruchi, Shuddhanama Ruchi. My aparad. Shuddhanama Ruchi. Oh, Gucci, Amaraparadha Gucci, Shuddhanama Ruchi. Kabe Habe Bolo Seidin Amar, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. When will that day come when I will experience Harinamananda? All right. Vanchakalpa Trivyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavanevyo, Vaishnavevyo, Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Dandavat, Dandavat, Dandavat.
Jai Shri Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai Shri Madhusudan Maharaj.
Hari Jai.
Where are you driving to? Dhanyavad, dhanyavad.
Dandavad Maharaj.